Hi everyone, Cleo's Glory Young here. For the last couple of weeks, I've been observing certain things around the world and realizing that something is becoming more and more prevalent in our society. And it's something that I started to pay attention to. I don't know if it's because I can resonate with it. That's why I'm paying attention to it, because the average person may not even pay attention to it. But it's something that I could resonate with, so I literally started to pay attention to it. And I'm seeing that it's becoming more and more prevalent in society. And going back to how I can resonate with it, it's something that made my life, and I wouldn't put it in what I would say save my life, but I would say it made my life safe once again. And literally, I'm talking about what I would call the black box. All right. And black box, this one right here, is something that I created. As a matter of fact, I had four versions of the black box, and I'll get to you where that is actually coming from. So the first version that I had was, and I still have today, is what I would call the black box friendship, right? The second thing that I created was what is called the black box moment. And the third thing that I created was the black box bracelet. So I used to have a bracelet of it, and eventually, from having it a long time, it actually broke. And then I created this last one, which is called the black box, the box itself. Um, but this is actually coming from the concept of the airplane, the black box that's on an airplane. That's where it's coming from. So literally, this was I would call it the revelation that turned my life around. And I started to understand it from the angle of the black box being that moment, right? When the plane crashes, then the black box is revealed. So for me, I equated that as one of the safest equipment on the airplane. I can't tell you every equipment that's on the airplane, but I know when the plane crashes, right? And everything is burned or damaged, and this black box still remains alive. So at that particular moment, the revelation that came to me, I guess at that particular time, was that my life crashed. And literally, I was going through the toughest time of my life. And that revelation I was able to utilize, right? And pull myself out of that crash, where I created a black box friendship, and the friendship was actually getting someone that I felt safe with and explain to them what was going on. That led to what is called the black box moment, meaning that, hey, I need a moment of your time to sit here and be in a safe space where I could therapeutically get this stuff out of me. And I guess from the airport standpoint, which is called baggage claim, right? Baggage. There was this baggage inside of me that was holding me down, and I needed to get it out. So that's how I created the black box friendship, which gave me that black box moment. And from being in those circumstances where the friendship and the moment made me once become the person I know I was destined to become, right? It allowed me to now create what I call the black box bracelet, as a significance of me remembering where is it that I'm coming from. I had the bracelet, and over the time of wearing the bracelet, it broke. Literally, I had someone who makes jewelry create that for me, and at one point it broke and I didn't want to get it redone. So what I eventually did, I created the black box. And you can see one of the things that I talk about, it says is inside safe. Most people won't understand what they're going through when life hits them, but the biggest factor is their safety. And I learned that through the black box, right? It's the safety of what's inside of us that needs to really be put back intact. It's like I would call it during my process of understanding it more, I would call it the crazy glue, right? And the crazy glue is that, hey, crazy glue really hold things together, right? But when you don't have that safety, right, it's like now the glue part is gone and you're left to be what? Crazy. So I literally learned these things from the airport itself. And this is why when I talk about the airport adventure, most people won't understand where I'm coming from. They may just think that, oh, he's someone that's just talking about the airport. Let me tell you some of my experiences. One of them was being a teacher. I learned a lot from being a teacher, right? Another one was going to college and minoring in psychology. I learned a lot from that as well as my major, human services. At one point, I was a behavioral therapist, right? So I learned a lot from that as well. And at one point of my life, I was also involved in a lot of self-development trainings, right? Particularly Landmark. I've been to some of their well put together self development trainings, right? And all these four experiences that I just recalled, right? None of them have gave me a better understanding about life than the airport. None of them. So when I look at talking about the airport adventure today, I'm not talking about a book or just a story. I'm talking about something that made my life into something that I never imagined, right? The black box. From that one revelation to the point where now I'm developing different things around the airport. Why? Because at one point I started to look at the airport like, if this one moment helped me tremendously in my life, what else is in the airport? And that's how I began to study and research and interview different people within the airport and stuff like that. Took observation of certain things and started to make sense of certain things. And literally, even things that I was taught, even in psychology, like the airport really made me understand it from a whole nother level. Like, I could give you something real quick. So, there are people out there that could read and they could read even fluently, but there's a distinction called comprehension, meaning that you could read and even read fluently and you can't comprehend what you just read. And that is what happened. Like, yeah, I learned all these things in college and teaching it, but I wasn't comprehending them until I had the encounter with the airport. Everything just started to make sense. So for me, this was the moment that became the significant turn in my life. And that's how I started to pay attention to it now that more and more people are needing that black box moment where they can have that safe space where they can get what I would call the baggage out of them, right? Go to baggage claim airport. That's a whole nother video I would have to do with that. But that is the concept when we're bogged down in life, either mentally or emotionally coming from our heart, we're in a circumstance where we're not internally safe. Is inside safe? So when I understood that concept, that's how I started to develop the box now. But when you start to look at it mentally, we're not safe, or emotionally from the heart, we're not safe. And that now creates a havoc in our life and in the life of others. So I'm realizing that more and more people are now in need of what is called the black box moment, where they can have a friend or a family member that creates a black box friendship with. And that is the moment that you can give them that safe space for them to release whatever is being the baggage in their life. Right? Everything that I do around the airport is coming from this one concept. It is the root of my germination to this life around the concept of the airport adventure. And again, I have all these different experiences, right? And none of them have made me understood life more than the experience of the airport. It's being able to read and even read fluently versus the distinction of comprehending what was read. That's a significant difference. All right. So until then, God bless.